Hello and welcome everybody out there in Union Arena land. We are here today with Kyle from Universities going over another deck tech video. This time we are talking about the Chinese Federation deck. It is a super synergistic deck that relies on a 2-card and 3-card combo in order to provide pressure and have a really outsized and really hard to outpace card on the front line the entire game. If you're interested in playing something that's a bit more outside the box and more for fun, then this might be a deck suitable for you. So, Kyle, how would you describe the identity of the Chinese Federation? Is it more of a tempo deck, control deck, or straight up aggression in disguise?
Tempo with some early aggression that you want to apply to. That early aggression can kind of once you get to your 5 cost, kind of winning you the game there, because this 5 cost is kind of a sticky body that, again, outside of the fact that we're in a meta where we're only seeing 4Ks more left and right, means that also with Shin, the mech being a 45, means it's not as easily removed by, let's say, a Roy Mustang or anything like that. So just something to think about there.
Oh yeah, very scary card indeed. I love cards that are bigger than 4K. Free blocks. That being the main win condition of the deck, how do we think that this deck stacks up against some of the other decks within Purple Code Geass? Do we think that it's going to have any good matchups, poor matchups, or perhaps it might just be able to sneak out some wins against others?
If a player knows what they're doing with this list, they can definitely do some great combos, right? Shin plus this will always make sure that this mech stays on board, because her ability is basically, as long as she's active, she can suspend at the end of turn when a card is supposed to be trashed and you get the card back, right? So sometimes we get in those hand situations where we want to the effects to be back to us, right? So losing card advantage for just keeping our body around sucks. But because she's in the deck, she allows us to keep that card back in our hand. There are a lot of benefits from playing a mixture between Chinese Federation and Pure, but there are sometimes that Pure build doesn't feel like it does enough. So that's why I kind of went with the Rollo engine a little bit, to kind of give you that little bit of extra edge during the end game where you want to have that benefit, where you can just get those attacks in when you need it.
All right, so it's a very valuable Raider-centric style deck. So how about we go over the curve a little bit here? Can we start at the zeros and work our way up? What are the roles each of these cards are playing inside of the deck?
So we have Lin, that's a 0 cost. Lee, just adds to your hand. It's just a raid target. Zhao is basically an AP restand, 2000 DP, and then Rollo is just for the Rollo fighter mech, because again, Rollo fighter is pretty good when you want to activate stuff, because Rollo can be able to suspend stuff and wants to be a pretend yellow card in a blue deck. So,
okay, good ability,
yeah.
Good.
Yep. So those are the 0 costs, which is pretty good. Then you have Lee, who is basically 25k. When played, draw a card, and then trash a card. Kind of wish it just said draw a card, because, the benefits that Roy Mustang gets with, Rizza being able to just draw a card, it could have just had the same effect of, instead of discarding a card, you draw a card if you have a Tianzi, boom, that could have been the whole 9 yards, and the card, in my opinion, would be 10 times extremely better that way. It's not a bad card in general, just because it does cycle, which again, we don't have that 0. So the 1 cost cycling is kind of where you're going at it. Awesome. So then we do have the 2 AP activations. Rollo here is just, main switch to resting as long as it's in the front line. Choose one of your opponent's characters in the front line, switch to resting. Really solid. Be able to, activate main, be able to do this, and then go right into the mech, and then suspend something else. That means now you're guaranteed to have 2 targets that your opponent's now has rested so you can get in that cheap final hits, right? Because sometimes, they have 4 in the front, but with Rolo being in, like, if you move it up from the energy line and then now that's 1 blocker gone, and then you go right into Rolo, and then boom, you're into the next one.
And that being a raid target for your fighter Rolo. Oh, that's terrifying. Remove 2 blockers? Deal.
Yeah. Boom. What's your opponent going to do then? At end
Not
game?
block.
Like, yeah, with an impactor on board. Oh, I have only 2 life left. Well, I have 2 negate impactors. Well, I bring him up, tap it, raid it, bop it, spin it.
All that fun stuff. All right, so moving along.
But again, we have Tianzi, double energy generator. I wish they just had another Tianzi. But they made her the 0 choice of suspend and retire, and I don't like that card too much because
those cards are rough.
They're good in the sense of tempo when you can, and if you have a raid target for them, they're fantastic. That's why C2 does extremely well in Purple Code and other decks that kind of just abuse that early on. But again, nowadays we don't have that excess, so a lot of decks skip over that. So with Tianzi, it's decent, but you're just going to lose out on the resource. So you don't want to always do that. So then we're getting into 3s. We have Diehard Read. So Diehard reads as when played, look at the top card of your deck, then place this on the top or bottom of your deck. Then place it on the top or bottom. Filter's good. Especially when it gets to those late games, you need another or a Rolo fighter, just something to get that ball rolling to close out game. Just gets there. Then we have 1 million miracle. This is just basically 0 rolls up and just has a million zeros suited up on a stand like arrest 0. We're all 0. What? Okay, and then you have Baryon Cannon. So this is basically the mech's signature attack. Choose up to 1 character with less DP on your opponent's front line, sideline it. Lee or Shin on your field, 5,000 DP or less instead. Special. Boom. Yeah,
standard special.
Answered. Yeah, nothing too sweet. And then we have Lee himself. So Lee is, as long as you have the girl, his promise that he promised to protect her going forwards. As long as he's faithful, he will always be there for her. So he gains benefits from that. I still hate that it's like your turn, it becomes a 4K. Just make it all turns if you're going to have. I really do prefer stuff that has conditionals. If you're going to make these cards like that, just make it universal conditional and just make them 4Ks. I don't understand. I get that we get to play the hide in the energy. Not your turn versus my turn, because that just changes up removal, right? Or if you're going to do your turn, instead of 500 BP, I think in the card game, improve it, make it 1,000 DP. Make these things worth playing the deck and make them more scary. But he's also a good filter card. So drawing 2 cards, then place 2 cards. Not bad, especially because with Tianzi, when cards are placed from your hand into the sideline by this ability, by a Lee on your field, you may switch this character to that is active to resting. If you do, add one of those cards you placed in the sideline to your hand. So instead of being a, draw to trash 2, it becomes draw to trash 1. So you get that card back. So she combos extremely well with Lee in best ways. So they kind of just play off each other. And hopefully we get another one can do the same thing with getting cards back, and that they get another mech that's just not just Shin. But
that'd be really interesting though. So looking at all of this, the deck seems to have quite a few very unique attributes to it. Can you walk us through the cycle of rotating the Shen hue with the Tianzi color trigger in order to generate that advantage on the card? Can you just walk us through how that works? Because it seems very complicated from the outside looking in.
So as long as Tianzi is on board, she has this during your turn ability of Li or Shin on your field. You may switch the character that is active to resting. So, and then you get one of those cards back. Li does a draw to discard 2, so that means it becomes to discard 1. So basically you're still discarding 2 cards, but you rest her to gain that ability. What's really nice of her ability is no matter what point in the game, if let's say you have the Li on board, like in your energy line, she comes in, she's gonna be active, so that means, you know, she comes in immediately ready to go. So with Li, immediately you play this card, you're going to gain that draw, and then she can set up more. Or if you have the mech art, it has a way of kind of, if you use this Li earlier on, and then you suspended her, you can go into Shin, raid this on top of it, and then basically, you know, choose up to 1, you bounce it to your opponent's front line, return it to hand, choose 1 Tianzi in your energy line, switch it to active, which leads into kind of keeping the shit on board, because you want to have this thing on board at all times. Because it has probably the weirdest, like if it's on your front line at the end of your turn attack phase, sideline this character or place 1 card from your hand into the sideline. It has a way, it tries to be sticky. Like it's a punishing sticky. But that's fine, because as long as Tianzi's on the board and you have a way of kind of just cheating her to stand up and just kind of keep, you kind of only neg 1 card in that kind of combo line.
So looking at all of this, the deck seems super synergistic and has a lot of different paths and complicated lines to be able to squeeze out damage against your opponent. What are some deck matchups that you think we have in our meta that this deck really does not want to run into? Other than Toshi.
Toshi would be its only really sad day. I think this deck can really get under people in a really good way. There are many different ways of kind of building it. I went with the Rolo build because I think Rolo does a little bit better than a lot of the generic Chinese Federation stuff that they're trying to push. I think Rolo just adds that little bit of endgame synergy that your opponent's not going to be prepared for, but there is a option that you can play if you're going to go focusing on Chinese Federation and you just package. There is a very powerful option when Shinhu wins glory. This card is a 2 action point 3 cost, but if you choose Shin when using this card, reduce the AP cost by 1. So as long as you get to choose the mech. What it does for it, choose up to 1 a Chinese affiliate card on your front line. It gains 1000 DP and double attack. So there's your other kind of winning con there. Late game wise, because he has a 55, yeah, that's very scary for a lot of decks to deal with, right? So it is another option, and it does have a trigger. So yeah, that is, I think if you're going to go that way, the Shin wins glory. You could play the Genru mech raid for Chinese Federation that you can focus on. If you have 4 or more Chinese Federation affiliates, gains 1,000 DP during your turn. Again, 4,000 beater, and then when played, look at your deck. 1 Chinese affiliate card among them, add it to your hand. Place the rain cards at the bottom of the deck. So there are ways of making the Chinese Federation work, and I really hope that they give it more support, because there's times where the pure Chinese Federation lacking, but it can do a lot of good by it. But I think the main engine, as you know, is just the Li Tianzi combo. So as long as you have that as your set in stone, you can apply a lot of damage to your opponent that way, just by doing that.
So last thing I want to know from you, and this is just a little bit of theory crafting here, I'm going to give you an option of 2 cards to come out in a pseudo set that would give this deck a little bit of life, right? Would you rather have a 0-drop Lee who draws discards with a draw trigger, or would you rather have a Tianzi that on play you can give something -1 BP if it's 15 or bigger, and you can active main set it to resting to do the same thing? Which one do you think this deck would be better with?
The Tianzi. Immediately, the moment you said, make this Shin be able to bounce a 4K, is exactly what you wanted.
So maybe only -500. Listen, Bondi, you could pay me to do all this for you. I'm very good at this. Probably.
Yeah, no, that's the perfect Tianzi for this deck. Like, you just needed that Tianzi. And this and give us one more Shinho mech. Just one more. That's just, it doesn't have to, you know, unsuspend your Tianzi. Just make it so it on play or activate main, you know, discard a card, bounce you know,
a 2K.
3K. 2K or 3K. Just do that and make it like a 4K mech. And I think this deck goes to the races where players will not be ready for that. And it brings the deck full synergy. And I think just small integrations, it just needs another great wave of support. And this deck can really blow people out of the field. I think it's got the right foundation right now. And it's in a good spot, but I think it just needs that sweet little salt to the spice. And then I think the deck is fantastic and could be tier 1.
Yeah, and that'd be fun. Let's give us another blue deck put into tier 1. Anyways, thank you very much, Kyle, for joining us today. Kyle, where can people find you?
Down in the doodly-doos in the description.
Yes, and you can find me down there as well. I'm ProDMJoey, and don't forget to follow the channel and like, comment, and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.